Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today I'm going to do the mid-year Freakout tag for 2021. The tag was created by Chami, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name right, and Earl Grey Reads. And you can visit Earl Grey Reads' channel to watch their version of this tag. The booktubers I watched who kind of inspired me to do this tag, Jess at Jess Owens, and then Kazen at Always Doing. I enjoyed their tag videos, and so I thought, I'll go ahead and do this tag because I was going to do a tag anyway today. And I thought, well, this is just, it's a kind of a fun tag. Also, a pretty good way to check in to see where I am with respect to 2021 and how much reading I have or haven't done, as the case may be. Prompt number 1, the best book I've read so far in 2021. The best book that I've read so far in 2021, why am I restating the question, is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. If you didn't see that coming a mile away, what are we even doing right now? Prompt number 2, best sequel you've read so far this year. I haven't read any sequels so far this year. I've been threatening to reread the second novella in the Murderbot series, but I actually haven't done it yet. So far, I haven't read any sequels. Prompt number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but want to read. For me, this book is called The Afro-Minimalist Guide to Living with Less by Platt. I happened across an interview with the author somewhere around the internet, and I thought that this was just such an intriguing perspective for the minimalist movement. I am interested in minimalism. I've been decluttering my closets for the last couple of years. I've been decluttering with varying degrees of success my kitchen for the last couple of years, but I'm excited to read a sort of an African-American sort of slant or view or perspective on minimalism. Prompt number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of 2021. For me, it is The Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is a book that, oh my gosh, I feel like I may have seen Thomas at SFF 180 talk about. I know I've seen his video mentioning it as one of the new releases for, I think it's this month, July. But I also know that I watched someone's Booktube video who talked about Psalm for the Wild Built because they are a fan of Becky Chambers, because she does the Wayfarer series, and the first book in that series, great title, is a long trip to a small angry planet. I think I got that right. And also she has another book, not a part of the Wayfarers trilogy, I think that is, called To Be Taught and Fortunate. That's another book that I want to read, and I know I've heard someone else talk about that book as well. Can't remember who it was, of course. The Psalm for the Wild Built sounded really interesting, and I'm trying to read books that I maybe wouldn't necessarily read, and so this is the book that caught my attention, and so I am anticipating. As a matter of fact, it and the book by Platt are on my list to be purchased next. Biggest disappointment for me thus far in 2021 is Kindred, Life, Love, Death, and Art by Wragg Sykes. This was one of the books that I was scheduled to read in association with the Booktube prize. I had to drop out, life was lifing. But I was interested enough in the book to want to read it anyway. Now, if you're just all about that Neanderthal life, you're going to love this book, I think, because she goes in depth about tool making and about the fossil record that indicates what kind of tools were used, and then like the tools used to make the tools. It was interesting, but for me, it was just a lot. If she could have pulled that camera back a little bit, it would have made the book a little shorter, but more concise. The pacing, I feel, therefore would have been better, and it wouldn't have felt like she was just dragging on endlessly about how Neanderthals made a knife or a spear. It was interesting, but for me, it wasn't that interesting. Again, if you love all things Neanderthal, I think this book might actually be a book for you. Prompt number 6, biggest surprise for 2021 for me. It was me dipping my toe back into the realm of romance, or Romancelandia, with the book Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I've talked about this book. I talk about this book a lot on this channel since I started reading it. I'm just enjoying it so much. And the big surprise is that it's not even a historical romance. I grew up reading romance books from the Harlequin titles, sort of graduating to like the Joanna Lindsay era, and then finally running across my absolute fave, Beverly Jenkins. And that has been my evolution as a romance reader. I am so very grateful for Beverly Jenkins coming on the scene and being able to see more representation for me in the books. Love that about her. Love the fact that she does so much research in regard to her books. Also, I'm not sure why I'm on a tangent about Beverly Jenkins, but why not? So my biggest surprise is that I'm getting back into Romancelandia, and I'm doing it through a contemporary romance with Talia Hibbert. Prompt number 7, favorite new author, debut author, or new to you? That author would be Talia Hibbert, of course, because need I say it? Prompt number 8, newest fictional crush. I don't have one. Maybe mostly because I've been reading nonfiction books, so I don't have a fiction crush. Prompt number 9, newest favorite character. Again, I've been reading nonfiction, so I don't really have like a favorite character. Yeah, so again, for me, that's going to be, I really don't have one. Prompt number 10, book that made you cry. So this, I didn't exactly cry, but I was a little sad and a little teary. So I read this book called The Black Cabinet by Jill Watts. Excellent book about the Black Cabinet and their interactions and fights with the Roosevelt administration in the 1930s, 1940s. So this is pretty much at the end, Roosevelt pulling the country out of the Great Depression through the Works Progress Administration and moving into World War II, and how the Works Progress Administration sort of progressed along that particular timeline. And so it's about Mary McLeod Bethune and the gentlemen who formed the Black Cabinet, who served with the federal government in various different capacities. Their goal was to have the Works Progress Administration and the various and sundry policies put forth by the New Deal actually positively affect the lives of African Americans in this country. It may or may not be known that the Works Progress Administration, or maybe I should say the New Deal, wasn't, while it was geared toward all Americans did not include African American peoples. And so the work, the fight, the political machinations that they had to undertake in order to make sure that a government policy also included Black people it was a lot of heavy lifting. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of those microaggressive interactions. But let's be clear, this is the 1930s, 1940s. It was also just a lot of straight up racism thrown in their face, right? But they still had to work against that tide, against the Jim Crow era, right? To make sure that government policy actually affected all Americans, including Black Americans. What made me cry was the indomitable spirit, will, powerful personality that was Mary McLeod Bethune. That is somebody I would love to have a conversation with. When people ask you who in the history, of the world, in the history of ever, who would you like to sit down and have a conversation with? She's probably in the top 10. She's definitely in the top 10 because she was a force of nature for good. She used her superpowers for good. Prompt number 11, a book that made you happy. It is, of course, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Prompt number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought this year. For sure, the cover of The Disordered Cosmos is just glorious. I think I talked about the cover in another video, if not the last video, 2 videos ago. I love this cover. The cover is glorious. I love it so much. Prompt number 13 is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? I hope to plan to finish The Dead Are Rising by Les Payne and Tamara Payne. I've been reading that book-ish, you know, that's the book where I kind of hit a slump with. And that slump with that book has kind of rippled out to my other reading, trying to get back in the groove, trying to get that reading kickstarted again. So that's what I'm working on right now. Another book that I need to finish by the end of the year. Now, I've been reading this book really since the beginning of this year, possibly the end of last year, is Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. And it's a book of her essays and articles published over time. Really, really interesting reading. I have found for me that there's no way I can just blow through Sister Outsider. There are so many things to contemplate and consider. So I've just taken it slow, and when I'm in the mood to read it, I read it, and when the mood is not there, I just wait. You know, I wait for when the inspiration strikes for me to read that book. It's not a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, it's a deep book. It's saying a lot. It's saying so much about women and their place and their power and their disenfranchisement in this country. Oh my gosh, it's just so it's a good book, but again, for me, it's not a book that I can just, it's not a surface read for me. It's really one that has prompted me to stop and think and contemplate a great deal. And I love that. I love when a book does that. And that is the mid-year book Freakout tag. Thank you so much for watching, book nerds. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave me a like. For my veteran book nerds, thank you so much for watching and for coming back. I really appreciate you. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, hello and welcome. Go ahead and watch some of the other videos on the channel. And if you find that you enjoy the content, go ahead and subscribe. Become a veteran book nerd. Join the club. Remember to be good, to do good, and I will see you in the next video.